Everybody, it's your boy Big Nate. We got another dope ass stream. Today we're gonna be doing something a little bit different. We're just gonna be chilling. We got some videos to watch. I got a little agenda, right? I got a little syllabus for today's well actually it's gonna be up to the students. It's gonna be up to the chat and the gang. But I do have one video that I want to start with, and we'll get all into that. But first I'm just setting up my little setup here. So if we got anybody in the chat, hopefully I am in fact streaming right now, but let me just, okay, Dilcor says we here. What's good, everybody? Yeah, so like I said, I think we can just like watch some dope ass little videos. I thought it'd be cool, honestly, for a couple reasons. So like the long con here potentially is there's a lot of videos and shit that putting out. Yeah, you're right. I'll get that. Let me do that right now. Let me do that right now. And while I am making an announcement in the Cord, short for Discord for those uninitiated. But anyway, I was saying, here, wait, let me just, I'm not a multitasker like that. Should I hit everyone, at everyone, or is that shit irritating? I never know. Also, furthermore, when I talk, because I think when I was going through the footage in the last video, it kind of like doubled my voice. Like I think it was doing the internal mic. At everyone, yeah, okay, facts. Are you hearing like a double? Because I think at some point, I agree. I was definitely gonna add for tomorrow. Let that be clear. But okay, but is anybody hearing a doubling, or do I just sound normal? Because like at some point when I got close to the computer, I think it was picking up like my computer microphone. Double. It might be the recording, or I might have just fucked up the last one. So if it sounds good, then honestly I think we're straight. Okay, here, hold up. Everyone, we live, just like that. Okay, me when this nice, bro got the gifts on deck. But okay, so as I was saying here, I think it'd be cool to like, I think I've dropped the lore that I'm kind of like writing a book. I haven't really talked about it, but I'm like actively doing that. And it's very related to science. It's like the parallels between science and mythology. And so there's a bunch of like dope science videos that I watched, and I'm like, honestly, I feel like this would be fun to do with the gang. What more, we could like chill and take notes, bro. What more could you ask for? Chill with the homies, watch some videos, science and otherwise, and take notes. But like maybe even literally on some writing, like I might even pull up a little, you know what, let me do that right now. Get a little, what you call it, open document. But yeah, so then I'm finna and then we can just get right into it. I'm just letting people kind of stream in here as we pull up our shit. So okay, let's see. I have it saved on a playlist, and then I want to make sure you guys can like see and everything. You guys are about to see my like internal like my street, or what's it called, like the homepage. You know how it's like, you guys ever been in that position where you have to like share your screen? What's up, cool cult? You gotta share your screen or people see your YouTube. My YouTube algorithm is a very personal thing. Hold up, I made a whole playlist for this shit, bro. Hold up, man. Where is that? Just bear with me, gang, bear with me. Or I could just look up the video itself. Okay, here, I got it. All right. So I'm let me share my screen, as they say. Curated YouTube Rex. Let's go. So okay, let me screen share. All right. Of course that didn't work. Here, wait 1 sec. I think I gotta like. Sorry guys, I'm still figuring out the whatchamacallit. No. I'm still figuring out the nuts and bolts of the stream, the Twitch streaming. But window capture? No. Application cap? No. Fucking hell, mate. Let me try like this. Oh, you know what it is? Got certain intimacy between user and algorithm having exposed. Yeah, I agree. And you know what? Sometimes I watch stuff that I don't necessarily, you know, a man's YouTube algorithm is his last safe space. Okay, guys, sorry for real. I know this is annoying. I'm trying to like get this god dang. Never did fit. Okay, there we go. And then oh yeah, we up. All right, you guys can see this, right? A little video. It said, "Wow, living beings." Here, look. Let me show you the thumbnail because it actually looked kind of sick. I've seen this dude before too. I don't know. I mean, I bet there's not probably a lot of people that watch this, but damn, Bo reposted. I don't even. Did I miss? I surely missed it. The light being okay. I don't. Whatever. It don't matter. But okay, let's see. Does Twitch not start with a I don't know if that's yeah, exactly, Dilcor. I don't know if that's allowed. And plus, we gonna be. I want to be more elusive for this for this. Not even that, but we'll see. We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah, it's all right. That's all right. If for those at home, you feel free. Okay, and now that I switched like my little outlook, you guys, am I like doubled or no with the mic now? I think I'm still good, but now I'm just double checking because I switched my whole little like setup. So if I sound weird, you let me know. No, you're good. Okay, and then the this all looks good, right? Like you guys can see the video and stuff. I believe so. Looks good. Okay, we finna get right into it, gang. We finna get right into it. Oh, I'm boiling some tea too, so in a moment I'm gonna go check on that. In fact, it's probably boiling already, but all right. We'll see. Hey, this is an experiment, so we gonna see, okay? We gonna see.
Okay, this is going to be one of those videos that I'm going to start with a picture. And the picture is right here.
Because for those who didn't see, apparently when they die, they emit a faint light that disappears upon death. Okay, the YouTube is echoed. Okay, fucking hell. Yeah, thank y'all. Let's see. Screen cap. Oh, you know what it is? I bet I need headphones. It's cause yeah. Okay, headphones will fix it. Thank you guys.
I'm going to start
Is that
with
better?
a picture. And the picture is right here. This is a picture of a mouse lying down. Except that in the right picture, this mouse is no longer alive. In other words, this picture shows us a mouse that passed away and now appears to be kind of different. But what do you
Oh, it's the same? Wow, okay, weird. You know what? I might just say fuck the mic. The mic was me trying to be fancy. I'm pretty sure this didn't happen last time with the DFW stream. I was trying to up my production game. Yeah, I agree. He does seem echoey. All right, okay. Let me try one more time because now it should just be like my normal. Like there should be no actual mic.
exactly are we seeing here? Well, this is really what this video is about. This bizarre phenomenon is known as UPE, ultraviolet
Is this better?
emissions. He previously had
Or nah? Was that still? Damn. Okay, mute one of the captures maybe. Mac OS screen capture. You know what? I can show you guys. You're right. Bro, I'm gonna lose it. Okay. So bear with me, y'all. Bear with me. Okay. So let's see. What would I do? OBS. We can still. Okay. So maybe one Mac OS capture, but then surely you guys wouldn't be able to hear though, right? Because there's the mic, the Mac OS. Could it be this? Oh no, that's not it. Should I try muting the? Oh, okay. Screen capture wouldn't want noise, right? Because it captures the audio, and then you can see the screen. That's all there is to it. Would that work? Let's give it a go.
hypothetical phenomenon that was actually believed to exist based on what we know about biochemistry inside a typical body. But up until relatively recently, it was completely unproven and it was impossible.
Is it echoey still? Damn. Okay. Now let me try the headphones though. Because there's some. So okay, I'm assuming you guys can hear me. I'm a play.
To see it. Yet here in this recent
I think this
study,
should work. I think this should be
researchers
working, huh?
definitively showed us that UPE seems to be real, and living bodies, and actually anything living, seems to produce a kind of a biological light, or I guess biophotons.
Mic input, but the YouTube audio is way better. Okay, I'm gonna venture a crazy thing here. I'm gonna try. YouTube is good. Okay, but it's using the headphone mic. We engineering out here. We engineering. Let me it's so crazy it just might work. It's so crazy. Okay, wait, hold on. So I don't think all right, we getting there, gang. We getting there, gang. Check me out. Okay, all right. How is this? How do we sound here? Chickadee check check. I think you can hear me good. And then let me play the video while I chit chat.
Okay, this is going to be one of those
nice
videos
mic,
that
okay.
I'm going to start with
So how
a
we
picture.
doing? Did we
And
finally
the
get it
picture
at long
is right
last?
here. This is a picture of a mouse.
Okay, I can turn the mic down.
Except
Perfect.
that in the right
Thank
picture,
y'all.
this mouse is no longer
Amazing.
alive. In other words, this picture shows us a mouse that passed away
All right,
and
okay,
now
okay.
appears to be kind of different. But what
You guys let me know if an echo or double or whatever comes, and then we finna. Oh, here. Okay. While we're at a stopping point, let me get my tea. Let me get my tea. Okay, all right. Now we are fully set up. I couldn't even wait. I couldn't even make it with you guys. I had to wait. Oh, wait, hold up. I couldn't even wait. I brought all the tea stuff because I don't know why I took my glasses off. That was weird. I couldn't even. I'll make the tea here. Look, this is a plain old. Look, it's just water. I couldn't wait to get back to the gang. But all right, we finna play this. No more joking around.
But what exactly are we seeing here? Well, this is really what this video is.
And I'm curious too. Okay, because look, I know it's about to be like a whole science ass video. And by the way, we got the hibiscus. But I'm interested in interpreting this symbolically. That's been a big practice of mine lately because the scientific phenomena you will find are actually surprisingly symbolic. So let's get there.
It was about. This bizarre phenomenon is known as UPE, ultra-weak photon emissions, a previously hypothetical phenomenon that was actually believed to exist based on what we know about biochemistry inside a typical body. But up until relatively recently, it was completely unproven and it was impossible to see it. Yet here in this recent study, researchers
because right, what are we talking about? I mean, I've been mentioning this, but I've been very interested to watch this video because it's literally like your body is he says photons, but like literally your body emits light at the final moment of death. The human soul's final fart. The way I was actually thinking about it, just conceptually, I love that though. I love that. See, this is why we had to do this with the gang. Is it's almost like, you know, when you unplug something and there's that little discharge of electricity. It's like the discharge of the soul or something of that nature. By the way, we got honey. We sipping on honey. I got hibiscus. I'll do about yay, and then let's get right back to it.
definitively showed us that UPE seems to be real, and living bodies, and actually anything living, seems to produce a kind of a biological light, or I guess biophotons, representing an extremely weak type of luminescence that's different from any kind of other bioluminescence produced by certain bacteria.
Dilcor, have you tried loose leaf? Because that changed my life. Like, I've had the packets. It's night and day, bro. It's like the equivalent of instant coffee with real coffee. That's how I feel about tea bags. It's night and day. It's night and day.
And so in this video we're going to discuss the study you can find in a description by Salari and the team you see right here, with the title Imaging UPE from Living and Dead Mice and from Plants Under Stress. In essence, definitively showing us that UPE seems to be a real phenomenon, or showing us that most life on Earth seems to emit a certain type of light that basically disappears when that something dies. But here, let's start with something super important.
I agree.
Just because all this can be easily misinterpreted pretty quickly. Here, we're not talking about anything paranormal or some kind of an aura claimed to exist by various psychics, because that is not at all what we're discussing.
Disagree, aura gang.
Or what's being
Ain't nothing you can tell me, not tell me. That's a release of aura upon death. Sorry, Anton.
investigated. These are actual biological and electromagnetic emissions coming from within various cells and produced by very specific chemical reactions. And as a matter of fact, this glow is much weaker than what we typically detect with an infrared camera. In this case, this is also a biological electromagnetic emission, but it's based entirely on our heat. Or basically...
Sorry, no. Okay, my bad. I did switch it to 1.25. Sorry. Yeah, it is kind of fast. It is kind of fast, you're right. No, good call, good call.
The emissions in the infrared produced by humans and pretty much all other warm-blooded animals. For example, here's a picture of some kind of an animal. Take a guess what this is. And so instead here we're talking about something that seems to be emitted in optical light, so basically something that's technically visible to our eyes, but something that's super weak, or basically light that's so dim that it would be impossible to see without some kind of a specialized camera. But first, I guess let's discuss the main theory behind this and how all of this works, and then discuss what was discovered. Now, first of all, this is obviously not the first study about this, and not the first attempt to try to see this. There are quite a lot of different studies out there that try to create similar effects by doing something slightly different. For example, in this study, researchers tried to create a very similar response by causing stress on the skin through the illumination with the ultraviolet radiation. Or basically here, by exposing skin to the UV light, researchers hypothesized that we're going to be seeing more ultra-weak photon emissions. But the science behind this has been explored for many decades. This was previously referred to as biophotons, and technically it was kind of controversial before, but the idea was pretty sound. And here the assumption was that typical biological processes should be able to create some kind of light, or essentially form of chemiluminescence, kind of similar.
Okay, I feel like this is more boring than I thought. I feel like I was interested in the idea.
Is not so different in a sense that it basically relies on oxygen and certain proteins, which results in an oxidation reaction that then produces light. And so
yeah.
typically...
Okay, I know I'm all over the place. Let's skip it. Let's do something else. But that is interesting. I mean, we're gonna take the headline here. I believe that is exactly the takeaway. I don't know. That's just cool. It's like, because what is light, right? Light is life. It's enlightenment. It's like the light is fire as well, which is also like that, you know, that symbolic fire which illuminates the life. It's just poetic. I thought that upon death, in that final moment, you get you emit light. Yeah, I agree, Dilcor. So why don't we I mean, let's see, 100 times more going on biologically than cool research will let on. For topics like this, I'd rather turn to... Yeah, I agree. In fact, that just reminds me, honestly, there's just a way that... This is why I'm becoming very disillusioned with academia in general, because I've been in that in various forms. Like, I'm a biostatistician right now. I basically just do research. Before this, I was in a PhD program, and I basically dropped out because I hated academia so much. And I was in cognitive neuroscience. It's like, okay, that shit is so cool conceptually and philosophically, like the relation between the brain and the mind, and certain manipulations to the brain give rise to these changes in the mind and everything like that. Like, that is my bread and butter. But like, academia just has a way of totally sucking all the fun out of it. It just makes it totally uninteresting. They have no room for... Anytime I try, you know, bust out a little bit of like, you know, what is the mind or conscious, anything like that, that shit gets taken out. They edit that out the manuscript. Anytime you try and do anything artistic or creative in any way of manuscript, they said, nope, not going to get published. And yeah, so I mean, I agree. The ideas are cool, and sometimes when you get down to the nitty gritty, I was hoping there'd be a little more discussion of that, but it is interesting. But yeah, I agree. Just this, not even the sciences, academia these days just has a way of sucking the joy and interest of like what got me interested in science in general out of everything. Yeah, and it's honestly, we ain't gonna get into it right now, but it's capitalism's fault. It's absolutely capitalism's fault. But you read these papers from like the 50s, the 60s, nothing like that shit would not fly today. Okay, so I was gonna say, how about we just finish the David Foster Wallace interview, because we were already halfway through. We can close that loop. And I was watching a video on black holes. We could do that too. I don't know what we're feeling. But exactly, the neoliberal regime. But why don't we just finish off that David Foster Wallace? That one's confirmed. But I do want to eventually start doing science videos before. Maybe if we find the right channel or we find the right type of video, I think honestly, I'm very interested in what you all think because you guys, I think, have the literary, creative mind, and that has way too little overlap with the sciences. So I eventually do want to do that kind of stuff. But why don't we just finish out the interview with David Foster Wallace? Play it safe today. What do y'all think?
When there's a question and answer.
I swear we were at like 40. I specifically remember we were at like the 43 mark. So I'm gonna go back, but let's get right back into it.
For this thing that I think I want that I don't even know what it is. And so I don't know whether German, well, this is probably not a good thing to say on television, but I don't know whether a similar thing happens in Germany, but it's very stressful now. And what it is too much good stuff combined with my sick little head that thinks there's always something a little better on the next thing. And all you have to do, you don't have to get up now to change it. That was the problem. When it became easy, you just had.
I'm losing it. Is cracked good? Cracked is good, right? Surely. But we can finish this out. But at some point, we do in science. We do
move your thumb and
happen.
change it. That's when we were screwed. So
wait, what do you say?
Now to change it. That was the problem. When it became easy, you just had to move your thumb and change it. That's when we were screwed.
That's what's so great because we could just get right back into it from last time. That's what he's saying. You know, the remote was the downfall. That's when we were screwed. When all you have to do is just you move your thumb to get some new channel, new content. And if he only bro didn't know about smartphones, if only. I mean, it's the same thing. It's very much the same principle. I think that he would have been talking about when you have the world's information, at just so many different levels, and just an endless stream of entertainment and content at your thumb. It's what he's saying with the remote. The smartphone is basically just the remote on crack for your brain. So, okay. Yeah, no, I knew cooked, but okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
So
do you think it's
90% of this is going to be cut out, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Okay.
Poor guy, bro. He said, "Please cut this shit," right?
I mean, not because I like it, but because there's of course
because it's not going to make any sense. Yes, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So do you think that entertainment that everybody? I mean, is that entertainment something we have to fight against? Like.
See, it's a strange question because who would say entertainment is bad? I mean, I wouldn't say entertainment is bad. But a model of life in which I have a right to be entertained all the time seems to me not to be a promising one, right? So. And this won't translate, but of course, one of the
Well, so before he talked, I mean, honestly, that whole thing is just because he's saying, on the other hand, because I think David Foster Wallace himself is conflicted on this idea, because in the E Unibus Plurum essay, he's constantly throughout, by the way, I'm not bashing on TV. Like, I actually find the people who, condescend on television to be very annoying people, and he sort of cringes at that kind of outlook. But on the other hand, surely a life in which our whole lives and time are dominated by it. Because in the essay, I think the statistic he brings up is people watch TV for 6 hours a day, and even if that's not accurate, between social media and internet and TV, it's low-key probably somewhere around there. But this is where it's kind of corny, but the middle way, right? The Buddha, the middle way. It's just it's moderation and balance in all things. It's not something we should not get rid of entertainment altogether. What the problem is, I think, is when we don't have that willpower, when it becomes almost, because like we were talking about, entertainment is a form of addiction, especially in the way that they tailor it and optimize it, as we were saying last time, to hijack your biology, to make it so it's virtually impossible not to attend to it. That's where it gets tricky. Let's see. Yeah, some of the thinkers we see Oh, some of these thinkers see something before it gets exponentially worse, like the idea, what would Nietzsche think of a nuke? Yeah, basically anticipating, I mean, that's the sign of all great thinkers, I think, is when oftentimes they're in some degree prophetic. And that actually comes back to what we were saying with that stupid, we gonna be clowning on bro for the rest of time. The one that said, what's the point of reading 1984 or Brave New World? They didn't happen yet. It's like, this is precisely why, because it's prophetic, and you can use that as like a cultural sort of, a class consciousness level of understanding to predict like these kinds of things, or realize that it's happening, so you're not just driven to a complete mental stupor and the entertainment and like just wake up. And these are one of the devices, fiction, to help you wake up and just realize your actual position. Knucklehead even.
Things about it is that entertainment is so good.
Yeah, millions of man hours per day spent consuming. That's a good way of framing it. And it's just like, what would we be doing before all this? I'm reminded of like a Walter Benjamin quote. I forget what it is, but it's like, boredom is the bird which broods creativity. And so many, see, again, this is why the science shit is important, because it's like, I forget, I think it was Newton. Pretty sure it was Newton, but he was like home. He was basically home on university break, and he was bored, and he ends up like concocting this experiment that, if I'm not mistaken, it was during this period that he was of boredom, where he set up like the prism and realized that light diffracts into all these different colors. So like Walter Benjamin said, boredom is the bird which broods creativity. So when we don't have that, and we're just constantly tonically, on our phone, that's the kind of stuff we're missing. So like you said, cool cult, millions of man hours spent consuming. Well, the begs the question, what would the alternative be, right? If we didn't have, and obviously there's great benefits with it, but it does make you wonder, like, would our society be in a better spot? And we're seeing, at least in the U.S., I would argue we're seeing some signs of this degeneration in politics and everything. But yeah, I mean, it is an interesting question. Mindless entertainment numbs the part of the mind that's capable of wonder. If you have to invest no effort or energy in even simple entertainment, the muscle that is imagination will atrophy. Yes, that's a banger, I think, right there. The idea that I love that. Imagination as a muscle. Or even just, like critical thinking as a muscle. If we're just constantly on that, just tonically being entertained, and it's just like you can just waste hours like that, right? Whereas if you're not forced with that, at some point, you get to bust in that imaginative muscle. Exactly. Use it or lose it is what my gym teacher used to say to me all the time. It applies to your ability to imagine. Use it or lose it. People are losing it. Yes, absolutely. And it's funny you guys say that. And I kind of like foreshadow this whole thing with science stuff. But that's like one of the key things you learn in neuroscience. It's called like Hebbian learning. Neurons that fire together, wire together. In other words, use it or lose it. And the muscles we are using now are just more and more tying us to our phone, and the muscles that lead to, like someone else said, wonder and the capacity to think deeply about things and insight and creativity, all those muscles are being, as you also said, atrophied. So yeah, no, love those comparisons. Love that.
So goddamn entertaining. Imagine this show were running on American TV, and I were sitting in this hotel watching it. Okay, we've got this pointy-headed, nerdy guy talking about this stuff, or I've got, Pamela Anderson running on a beach.
Yeah, why think deeply when I can have ChatGPT do it for me? I do really worry about these types of people. I've read and heard horror stories about like the younger generation where they like GPT questions that like literally are like, how many hours are in a day? Like things that like you low-key this, and if you don't, like, we're at the bare minimum of like this is basic human knowledge. And they're either just doing it out of a reflex, almost again, and we're speaking of the mind as a muscle. It's almost like a reflex to just use something like ChatGPT to just outsource it. Okay, is the answer online? Because that's almost one thing, right? Like we have like this world at our fingertips, and even that phenomenon, like, when you're just hanging with someone, it's like, oh, I wonder where cheese is made, or, some stupid shit. But like, that's like, oh, just look it up, right? Just look it up. But when you apply the just look it up to every aspect of your life, or you pay for an education through which you're just looking it up and not actually trying to retain any of that information, then that's a bad sign, I think. I heard a quote that went something like, "Those who sacrifice critical thinking for convenience deserve neither." I like that. I like that. That reminds me too. I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, okay. It kind of reminds me, and I'm like working. I've been doing some writing lately, gang, and eventually I'm gonna show it to y'all. But like, this is an idea that I've just been thinking about. But with the artificial intelligence stuff, I'm sure many of us have heard of like the Chinese room, the philosophical thought experiment. But if not, I'll just explain it. And it's like, imagine somebody in a little room, right? And on the outside, there's people who speak Chinese. And the way this room works is they submit a little slip, right? Like a little conversation, almost like a chat GPT prompt, you could say, something like that. But then they slip it in, and this person who on the inside has no idea the person on the inside has no idea how to read Chinese, but there's all these huge handbooks that say, when you see these symbols string together, then, output such and such string of symbols. And so to the person on the outside, it looks like you can maintain this whole conversation, but the person on the inside is doing nothing, the whole time they don't know Chinese, right? They are just responding to this input, providing an output. And I think that's where a lot of us are, Chat GPT in this case is the handbook of like, how to respond to certain things. People just get input. They don't think a thing in their brain. They just use something like ChatGPT as a crutch for their thinking, and then, output whatever the ChatGPT answer is. Half the time they won't even read that shit. So I don't know. There seems like an analogy there with like the Chinese room. It's supposed to be this whole thing about like, what is intelligence and what is knowledge, but I think it applies, directly to just like the modern state of where we're at. You telling me my AI GF really doesn't really love me, and it's just no, I would never say that. I'm sure your AI girlfriend loves you. I would never say that.
Beach or hilarious comedy. Which one am I going to watch? When I'm saying, there's no if fighting against entertainment is even required, how does one do it unless? Well, there are two options. One is you direct the attack only to people who are willing to listen to the complexity, but those aren't the people who are enslaved by entertainment anyway. Or you find some way to make the attack on entertainment entertaining, in which case you've been captured by the very thing you're fighting against. It's very, very strange.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, because he's basically saying, okay, how would we combat this? And one is directed to the people who are actually willing to engage with some level of complex thought, but as he just said, these are not the people you're really worried in the first place. And the other alternative, which he's just kind of thinking on the fly here, is like use some form of entertainment to fight the entertainment itself. So but then at that point, have you just bought into the rules? Are you still like within the overall the structural paradigm? Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder about AI. Robotic ethic laws will merge when AI insists it's sentient, but we have no way of actually telling. Jared Henderson had a vid not that long ago kind of related to this called "Why Don't We Stop Scrolling?" Yeah, shout out to Jared for sure. That's my dog. But yeah, no, the ethics stuff, I mean, especially with some of these videos going on, like, the deep fake stuff, it's getting really impressive. And everybody says this, but just imagine where it's at in 5 years. Legally, I saw something that was interesting. It's like AI content should legally have to be disclaimed as such, because I think that's a good answer to the whole dilemma, because otherwise it could get real tricky out here.
Yeah, that's exactly the dilemma.
Yes.
That's exactly it. Just that is different, but the topic is different now.
Yeah, I would say so not having it is as well. Yeah.
Infinite Jest takes partly place in a tennis academy. So, and you I read have been a tennis player, a quite good tennis player.
A somewhat good tennis player, not a quite good tennis player. No, I played a lot as a kid. Yes.
And then you said once, well, tennis is a little bit like chess and like boxing. It's I don't know if it's a combination of the two or if it's, but you somehow related the three together: tennis, boxing, and chess. So what makes tennis so
He said shit, did I?
special? Sorry.
Well, if you're asking why it's in the book, the reason it's in the book is it's the one sport I knew well enough to be able to try to talk about why it was beautiful. And it's also a sport that has to do with two very bounded spaces and sending stuff back and forth between them, which has other stuff to do with the book. I think tennis is a very, very beautiful sport because it's very abstract and geometrical, and tactical like chess, and it's also very, very physical. There's a lot of running. You get very tired playing. I don't know about the boxing thing unless that it's just usually one person against another person. But it's...
And with chess?
Well, if you're really interested, really good tennis players, like really good chess players, are always thinking 4 or 5 moves ahead. Actually, this was something that some of the German players who were superstars in the 90s were something very good at doing. Boris Becker didn't just come up and hit an ace. What Boris Becker, and I think he'd learned this from McEnroe, was really good at hitting a forcing serve that made you hit a weak return that let him come into the net and put the next shot away. I mean, so that everything is being thought of ahead. But it's also very combative. You and I are playing. If I win, you lose. I'm trying to beat you. Very individual. I don't feel like this is making any sense at all.
It's because bro will be cooking. He said, "I'm butchering it." No, you're not, bro.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I have to
No.
do that.
Okay.
You're cooking, in fact.
Fine. Well, you can run some sort of editing magic.
Yeah, sure.
Spoiler, they ran no editing magic. Or I'm sure they did, but we get the full thing.
But I don't have to.
But there's also something about, it's also combat at a distance. In boxing, the two bodies are very close to each other. There's something a little colder about tennis, which is I'm trying to beat you, but you're 75 feet away from me, and what's traveling between us is just this small thing. There's something more abstract about it, which is a little bit more like chess.
And what you also said is more mathematical, right?
Geometry.
I think there was. Are you talking about the essay that talks about calculus and
No.
tennis?
Maybe.
Oh, are you... Bro, there's an essay on... All right, chat, if we know what that is, let me know, because that sounds so fucking fire. What?
Yeah, I didn't understand it, but it was when
So I'm taking calculus 2 right now. Call that homework.
no. Is it Mario who talks to this guy who from his name is
Yeah, that's the beauty, right? You don't have to... A good writer, as they say, it's like, I'll read anything they write. And like you said, Dilkor, no, yeah, we don't care about tennis like that. But when you get the right mind on the case, all of a sudden I care. Same thing with I mentioned this with like Cicero. Bro will be doing daily ass normal activities, but he just finds a way to put a spin on it. The way he thinks about it, it's like, okay, yeah, no, it's fire. Over some literally just objectively boring shit, but it's Cicero, so.
Shtick?
Shit.
Shtick. Yeah. And he says that.
A German, as I recall.
Yeah. But it's not a German name, actually.
No, of course it isn't. What it is it's a vaguely Germanic sounding name to Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not the subtlest character in there. I just thought of him. Well, the angles are mathematical. So I don't know what to...
Yeah.
What is literature able to do that other... Sorry.
I saw this on the sheet of paper.
Yeah, because I have to
Good.
that.
Good. So let me ask you first, and then I'll what is it that literature can do that other things can't do?
Well,
It's not so easy, is it?
It's
no,
not.
No, not at all. But I thought you're more intelligent than...
There's a chapter in Infinite Jest of a man anxiously waiting for his dealer to deliver weed, and it's one of the most interesting things I've read. But it's just a dude. Yeah, okay, right, exactly. Yeah, I need to get up this Infinite Jest grind. I did just 2 back-to-back big... I mean, I'm still balls deep in one. I did all of War and Peace, which is, a tome, and then now I'm halfway through The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, which is yet another tome. I might need a little break before my next tome, but maybe that'll be the next one, though, Infinite Jest.
than I am. So I thought... well, actually, I read this in this interview, and you said something as that good art somehow yeah, is able to not make you feel alone.
So okay, Dilkor, this is what I mean. It's tough to get through because it's bad. Like obviously it's good, but you know every good book has its like bad rough patches. Is it like that, or is this just like too complex? That's the part that scares me. It's tough to get through, which is usually code for the writing isn't the best. Because obviously Infinite Jest has its is good, is amazing. Especially like those passages that really work. But is it just like there's bad parts too? Is that what's tough, or is it just I don't know. I'll pose that question, but.
And that is something actually that I'm very addicted to.
That's it. No, not my homework tab. Y'all can't see the homework tab. No. Fucking bro. Okay, first off, fuck Pearson, bro. I have to spend all this money to get a fucking textbook, and you don't like this fucking thing. I have to press like 5 clicks, link to bring up the textbook. It takes like 5 minutes to load. You can't download it. You can't. It's not your textbook. Once the course ends, you lose all the license and the rights to it. Just fuck Pearson one time. Shit gets me hot. Okay, where were we? It's tough to get through because it's a lot. It's overwhelming, and I just don't think I was ready for it. Yeah. Also, yes, fuck Pearson. That shit with the plug. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, that makes sense, Dilkor. I mean, from what I've gathered, David Foster Wallace's writing can be extremely overwhelming. That's like part of the characteristic of what makes it him, and that's cool and all, especially in an essay. But yeah, we get to like, there's got to be at least 1,000 pages, and yeah, sometimes you're just not ready for it. I've had so many books where I start reading this and it's like, you know what, it's just like 100 Years of Solitude. I started that. I got like a third of the way through it. It's like, bro, I have no idea what's happening. I'm confused. I'm putting this away. And then years later, I revisited it, and it's like that's good. That's probably one of my favorite modern classics ever. So that be happening. That be happening. The footnotes, yeah, bro's funny for that. Footnotes are canon. Footnotes are canon.
Because I'm simple as I am. I'm very I'm very happy when I don't feel this so lonesome when I read something. And I also when in good literature is something very musical to me sometimes. That I had that with Bernhard very much, because the sicker he got in his life, the easier his words the words became, and it was some kind of music.
Huh.
So for me, I have the beauty of the words and also this musical thing about it, and then also sometimes it's something philosophical and not feeling alone. That's what.
Can we just
Wait,
put that in? That's a better answer to the question than I could have given.
No.
That's funny. Before you read Infinite Jest, you should do brief interviews with hideous men. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Wean my way into it. But that was interesting. I was gonna pose to the class here. Literature as musical. I like it on its face, but I can't say, like, to me, I would not have equated those, because I mean, at times, I mean, literature can be cinematic. I would say that, but I mean. So I'm curious what others think, but like, if you get like a lyrical, there's some people like Toni Morrison or even someone like Joan Didion or whatever, where their words really do have like a lyrical like cadence to it, where the rhythm of the sentence is really part of it, and I would call that musical. But other than that, I wouldn't. That's not the first thing that comes to mind for me. Yeah, some authors seem musical. McCarthy has a specific cadence with his work that it's almost musical. Yeah, that's true. He also has his own unique cadence, and the musical thing actually works here. But funny enough for me, I actually get like a deep sense of almost silence from Cormac McCarthy. Like it's just No Country for Old Men, for instance, like the movie. That movie is very silent. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, there's literally no score in it. But that is, I think, really much that is how Cormac McCarthy reads to me. Like it's very quiet and somber and serious. But so that's interesting. But yeah, I'll have to think more about that. I just don't think literature is necessarily musical for me. But I do like that. I do like that. Some ecstatic passages that might get my brain going with music and visuals. See, okay, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, what's been enlightening for me too, in having conversations like these is how differently people read, like down to the visual imagery. I made that video at some point about what people picture when they read, because I don't picture anything except with some few exceptions. So, and then, she describes it as musical. And it's not that it's not even the right word. It's just that, I mean, for her, I'm sure it is. I was just saying for me, it doesn't, I wouldn't say it's like musical in my experience, but I'm sure for some people it absolutely is. Yeah, I love. Ooh, McCarthy's music is all about what happens between the notes. Yeah, I think that is on point.
First I had to you know.
Well, play back the tape of what she said, and I'll just no.
Yeah, people often equate rhythm with music. I mean, I would say rhythm is probably like is at least one fundamental aspect of music. I wonder if that's what she means by that. You know, like the rhythm cadence of certain sentences and like, you know, the flow and things like that. Or if it's like, I forget who said it, but they said, wait, hold up. Well-crafted prose, especially read out, can certainly flow musically. Yeah, I agree. And then, wait, hold up. Where was it? Somebody said something about ecstatic passages that get my brain going with music and visuals. So that's interesting too. Like, you know, music coming to mind in certain things, or even like, you know, Murakami from, you know, the books I have read. He's all about his music. I don't know if I would describe him as musical, but clearly I'm sure he would have a really interesting answer to the question of, you know, literature and music. But yeah, he'd be bringing up music all the time in his books. Oh, look at that. Wait. Oh, nice. Was that independent? Look, Murakami feels musical because I think he tries to make it feel that way, but not with the language. Yeah, right. Or like certain, you know, I could see like certain musical, like, what's the word? Vibes, you know, like a classical vibe during a certain scene, or like a dark book. Like sometimes when I'm reading like a certain type of book, I'll be putting on, like I got my dark ambient music, but I also got my upbeat, you know, classical or just, you know, lo-fi. So I could see something like that. Yeah, the vibe.
It's okay. It's a heavy question. There's something musical about it because...
Did you guys hear that little click, by the way? Just making sure.
It has to do...
Ooh, Pynchon feels like jazz to me. Love that. Because, like, okay, because I have not read anything by Pynchon, but, like, literally, I have read, like, you know, a couple pages just skimming through, and I can already feel... You said Pynchon feels like jazz. I feel like it's very discordant, going with the flow, deconstructed in a way. I don't know, but that actually hits, and I haven't even read Pynchon. Just, I you know, like, literally from the passages I have read. Murakami feels like jazz. Yeah, I could absolutely see that as well. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I like this.
With patterns of meaning that develop over time. There's stuff for me about reading that isn't like looking at a piece of art, because there I choose how long I look and what I look at, and I'm being directed through a linear flow of time. But in a piece of music or in a movie, that flow is directed for me. I've really got no choice but to follow it. Whereas books, it's weird. I'm moving through time through this thing, but I can also, I don't know whether you do it or not, but if I've read a paragraph I like a lot, I go back and I read it over again. So I'm trapped in time, but I've got more mobility within that time.
Yeah, I mean, I love. That's a great point on what makes literature distinct from other forms of art. Like you said, the mobility, the reread. This is why I feel like I couldn't do audiobooks, because sometimes even for just like a half sentence or a sentence, if I like not even tune out, but it's just like, okay, let me reread that, or just in general, like, yeah, like you said, if there's a passage that's really good, I'll go back and reread it, or I'll flip back a few pages, like, wait, didn't bro just say something or other? That's why I feel like audiobooks would be tricky for me, is because I can't control my mobility, just like he said, like with your eyes or something. And that's true too. Yeah, music or even something like film, they necessarily, right, you are sort of like passively receiving it, and it's you follow it as time goes by, whereas book is more of like it's like a stagnant thing that you could kind of move within. So yeah, facts. Oh, I was gonna say too, another thing about like, because you know, literature is not the spoken word, but it's like word, it's language. Because music and art, those are both mediums through which it's purely symbolic. I mean, art is definitely like, you know, it's figurative, it's symbolic, it's, you know, there's shape and pattern and form, but there's no language and words per se. And music drops all that. There's no visual aspect at all. It's purely sonic. It's musical. Whereas something like literature is like, you know, it's rooted in language. And the closest thing I could think of would be, you know, film, because film uses language as well. But the two both absolutely have, like, you know, their unique things to them. You can get into a person's head and invoke I think a feeling in literature that is just not possible within something like film. And same thing with film. Like you can get like a, even just something like a visual shot, which no matter how much you try to, and the best writing will approximate it, and they're just different. I'm not even saying like one's better than the other, but film just has a way of like, if it hits you with like a certain cinematic shot, there is like in that immediate instant, something, a feeling evoked within you that literature could not do. So the two have their own things, but at least those two have language. Music and art are purely non-linguistic and just like, purely symbolic.
And then I think, there's other writers I've talked to about this, and most of us.
Actually, okay, I'm curious, gang. What's your guys' tier ranking list of art forms? Because for me, it's literature at the top, and then I think, so like literature, art, film, music. I think for me, top would be literature. I think second would be, I don't know, between art and film. Art by like, painting, sculpture, shit like that. I feel like I gotta go literature, art, dare I say film, music. That's kind of interesting because I know people are about their music, and don't get me wrong, I love music, but I know there's people either watching this or elsewhere, in the Discord or whatever, Big Nate Gang, that is, that music will be their first one. But for me it's got to be, of course, literature. Also, yeah, literature, art, film, music. But they're all close runners. They're all close. Literature, music, film, art. Yeah, see, so music's a close second for you. Yeah, nice, cool. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, don't get me. I love all of these, but yeah. It kind of just surprises me sometimes how big people are into their music. It's like, yeah, I fuck with music, but for you, it's like
Who end up doing this?
Okay, this is
like.
It makes me think books aren't finalized to be consumed a certain way like in a movie. It's more open source, maybe music, books, video games, film, art. Was that your order, Cool Colt? Music, books, video games, film, art? But either way, depends on whether I want to be just entertained or have my brain engaged. I would say at the brain engagement level. Yeah, like, in terms of, serious, real art, what art at its peak, each of these art forms at their, highest form, how would you rank them? Pretty good big gap between music and film, and then film and art. Okay, yeah, interesting. Yeah. See, okay. Also, this video games. Look, here I am streaming on Twitch. Eventually, we'll get there. I would like to try, because people talk about video games as art and cinematic, and my exposure to video games has basically been Call of Duty and like Black Ops, shit like that, which I do fuck with. But I want to try some of these cinematic literary video games at some point. Maybe we can do that on Twitch at some point down the line. Installation and performance art feel totally different than painting. I agree. Art is a very obviously over encompassing term, because that's so true. Okay, that's the thing. Performance art. Because recently when I was in New York, I was at we went to a Broadway show, and I was like, okay, it's gonna be whatever. Like, because I'd never been to one. It's like, okay, musicals, kind of corny. Like, my initial thoughts would be corny, whatever. But we get there and it's like, okay, the theater is already really cool. Like, just like the architecture and the set design and everything ended up being really well produced. And there's like a whole ass band. Okay, I will say that thing that really elevated music for me is when I went to like the symphony. I would bake with my homies. We'd go to the symphony, and that is, truly an ecstatic experience, if I may, at the risk of sounding corny. But then, okay, so then Broadway, which was like, like play, drama, whatever I don't know, right? Play, I think that's the right word. But, well, obviously musical aspect too. But like the music was super good, and I found myself actually being really moved by the performance. I'm like, okay, bro, I'm sleeping on theater. I feel like that's the word I was looking for. And I mean, theater is cool too, because it's like and it's different from something like film, because it's like a singular experience, right? You can do the same play over and over, but each time it's going to be a little bit different. The vibes are going to be, just totally unique to that one place. And then I imagine something like the Coliseum, not the Coliseum, the amphitheater? What was that old shit they used to go to? You know what I'm talking about? I feel like amphitheater. I feel like I'm thinking of amphitheater. But, like, imagine you're out in nature and, like, God forbid it's at night and the stars are out and they just give a fucking Shakespeare performance. Bro, I would be moved as hell. I don't get what others do out of art and poetry. Maybe I'm too small brain. I may need some gateway prose. I feel like I don't get what others do out of art or poetry. You mean like cool coat? Like I'm too small brain. I may need some gateway prose. Like like you do art and poetry, but you need a gateway into literature. Is that what you mean? There are games I think are art, but the majority of games I think are not. I kind of don't fuck with the visual arts as much unless it's in literary form, like a comic. That thing with art to me is, at first I was like, it's cool, it's whatever. But my girl kind of put me on to going to art museums, and now I've just been doing that ever since. And there is something special about, and then also just like, I've been getting into the mysticism, the symbolism stuff, and also for a lot of the stuff I've been working on with my book, I've been like diving deep into art, and art has really worked its way out for me. I used to be like, all right, cool picture, whatever, but no, art is fantastic. Obviously, all these forms of art, capital A art, are, but performance art exists on the scale of how intimate the relationship between the performer and the audience is. The more intimate the relationship, the more powerfully it resonates. Yeah, there's some performance art in all its varieties, because theater, which we call that performance art, but then there's also like I would consider the modern contemporary performance art, where it's like they just be doing like dumb. I mean, we've all seen the memes of like just horror, like just terrible art that's like performance art. Interview, John Bertal was talking about Russian theater, was talking about how seriously they took it. I can't sit and appreciate a painting much or read into it. I definitely like it, but I can't delve into depths. Yeah, no, like I said, I was kind of with that way with art too, where it's just like, okay, this is cool, like this is visually appealing, but no, there's some really good shit out there that just takes me. It's like ecstatic. Yeah, pretentious dorks. I mean, there's a Borges story, The Aleph, which is totally makes fun of people like this, where they put all the work into coming up with pretentious answers for why the art is good, rather than the art just being good itself. It's all in the what's his name? The dude that did the toilet thing. Okay, that was not descriptive, but here, wait, hold up. Well, I got the fucking internet right here. Toilet modern art. What's bro's name? Ducamp. Yeah. Oh yeah. I should have said, "What's good? When we pass and we win. What's good, Nate? What's up? I was an art major in college. All we did was get fucked up and teach each other how to think about and talk about art." See, that sounds like a great time. See, if I had friends in my English literature degree, that made it sound like I'm just like, oh, if I had a friend, nah, those mofos were lame half the time. But see, yeah, that's the goal right there. That's the goal. Marcel Duchamp. Yeah, that sucks. It's a urinal. I did give a photo. So okay, though I will potentially give this one instance like a pass, but even then too, it's really not, because it's like, so the whole thing, if anyone's not familiar, he took a urinal, what'd he do? He rotated it like 90 degrees and he called it Fountain, and he submitted it to this art gallery and everything. He signed it R Mutt. I don't even know what the R Mutt means, but he signed it, called it Fountain, and this like revolutionized art. Now you have like this whole, that set off the whole onslaught, the avalanche of what I would say is just like terrible modern art. And it's interesting, like I said, I might give this one the one single pass, and honestly no, it's more just like a sort of intellectual, clever kind of fun, what is art, right? Isn't art found everywhere? It's just like there's art in everyday objects, or it's just it begs the question, what is and should not be considered art. But everything past this, and honestly even this, it's like, yeah, like look at that shit, bro. Fucking the urinal suspended in Marcel Duchamp's studio. It's like, all right, bro. Yeah. I mean, and that's the type of shit too, where it's like, someone just puts little splatters on painting. Like I go to like art museums and I'll see some modern art and it is just horrible. Like literally just like, this is like, I know it's the cliche, it's like a 5-year-old could have done this, but literally it looks like a 5-year-old did do this. There is some modern abstract art where it's like, okay, like it's having an effect on me, but a lot of it is just like literally just bullshit. And then it's like the Marcel Duchamp's fucking Fountain. It's just that, except derivative at that point, because everybody's done that, and it's just like, all right. You can blame the guy for a bunch of phony dorks making the worst stuff imaginable. Yeah, I would say. Or was Marcel Duchamp inevitable, where they're always going to be the dorks, and he was just the accident which made it happen? He kind of started the conversation of what is art, who can judge art. Yeah, that's so Living Deceiver. That's why he gets the pass for me for this one. You know, what is art, who can judge it? Yeah, okay, it's interesting. I like. I'll potentially give him the pass. Everything after that, you're out. No. Art is everywhere for sure. Everyone can judge art. Urinal is actually intentionally inciting frustration in the viewer for them to experience the same way a visual inspires beauty. The artist puts it out there to stir things in people. Quite innovative take. Yeah, so this is the type of stuff where it's like I can get into this. I really can see an argument for, like, you know, it is, because one thing you can say about that piece of art, we shall call it, is it evoked a response in people, and that is, you know, there's certainly something to be said about that. And the beginning of the picture of Dorian Gray and the preface, Oscar Wilde, I forget what it is, but it's basically like, you know, if your art has an effect, you know, on the critics, and if the critics are viciously disagreeing with one another, you've done something right. So, you know, to his credit, I think perhaps Oscar Wilde would agree with that take. Let's see. The moment you say only certain people can judge art is the moment you start gatekeeping a fundamental human experience from others, which is just flat out wrong. Yeah, the idea that only certain people can judge art. Art is like fundamentally part of the human experience. Whether it's like, you know, formal, actually, you know, like art, but, you know, art is something deeper. Art is just an expression of beauty. And beauty is, of course, a fundamental aspect of human existence. So yeah, the idea that only certain people could be judges, toxic, terrible. I don't know a mofo that actually believes that. And if they are, they're getting Big Nate intellectually slapped. I don't know. That was dumb. The moment, okay, yeah, reminds me of atonal piano a bit. I don't know what atonal piano is. Dilcor, until Duchamp art was a very gate-kept thing. Yeah, okay, right. So some history here. And he was definitely trying to break down the notion that only academic art critics could define art. He was all about destroying that. And I totally resonate with that idea, because we do, like you said, at a certain point, you know, the arts were considered to be like an elite class thing, and so some like Living Deceiver, like you said, Duchamp kind of opened that up to people. And I know, for instance, Kandinsky, his big thing, because, you know, he's like abstract. For anyone that doesn't know Kandinsky, let me just pull
like to read as kids, probably for the same reason.
Kandinsky. So, you know, yeah, so things like this. And his whole philosophy was basically, you know, like, bring back, you know, with the abstract forms and just like, you know, the geometric shapes, and, you know, there's no actual sort of like representational figure. It's all abstract. But part of his philosophy, at least, was, as he said, to open up and make art back, you know, something that like, you know, any lay person, you don't need a ton of, you know, artistic training, you don't need technical expertise, anybody can access art. And I know that was part of Kandinsky's big, you know, philosophy with his actual thing. And it sounds like maybe something going on with the Duchamp thing too. So I agree, supports my right to call his toilet bad regardless. Exactly. Hold up. What's hold up, my bad. I'm fixing. What's fucking, I may not agree with you, but I'll defend your right to say it. Whatever. I think that's Voltaire or something. You guys know what I'm talking about? I may not agree with what you say, but I'll defend your right I'll defend to the death your right to say it. Same thing with Duchamp. He said, I'll allow you to talk shit about art. But all right, yeah, nice. Okay, nice little tangent.
Reason you did, there's I'm trying to think of a way to say it where it isn't just sounds stupid and simple. But it goes without saying that there are four of us in this room. I'm sure we all seem fairly pleasant. We don't.
I'll tell you one mofo who is not pleasant. Fucking sound guy. Sorry, I just had to. We had to say fuck sound guy one time.
I don't know what's in your mind right now. God knows I don't know what's in his mind right now. There is a way for me, and I'm not really talking. I'm talking more as a reader, that when I'm reading something that's good and that's real, I'm able to jump over. I'm able to kind of jump over that wall of self and inhabit somebody else in a way that I can't, you know, that we can't in regular life. But
I mean, I think that's something we've talked about on the channel. That's just one of the classic boons of fiction. You know, it gives you perspective. Like, so much, I think, honestly, so much prejudice in society would be shattered if people just read, like, a few select books, because it does put you in that perspective that you otherwise just can't get. And I mean, yeah, like that's especially like, getting in the mind of other people. That's what people like Faulkner, for instance, and from what I've heard of someone like Virginia Woolf, they try, part of their unique aspects of their writing was like you really get into like down to the subconscious level, into the mind of another character. Like at first when I was reading The Sound of the Fury, I'm like, my shit has fucking typos. Like there's like random italics and they'll stop mid-sentence and the punctuation makes no sense. Come to find out that was part of the whole device of just like, because in your everyday mind there are half-formed thoughts and there are these like random tidbits that pop up and it's chaotic, and so he's able to represent that on the page. So I would say that's obviously true. Yeah, all my homies hate the Sound guy.
But and when I do inhabit that other person, very often what they're thinking or saying or feeling are things very much.
Yeah, I'm a little torn on The Sound of the Fury, or just Faulkner in general, because it is. That's a separate conversation.
Very much the way I do, but I'm scared there's something wrong with me that I do and nobody else does. There's a tremendous reassurance about that kind of.
Sorry, I know I keep pausing, but there was another thing. I mean, this is something you read about, in across all different types of writers, but the one that is most immediately coming to mind for me is Cicero, and it's the idea that writing allows you to just transport yourself across centuries. Like you can literally read the mind of someone like Plato or Socrates, or like my most recent example of this is I've been going through my notes for The Cloud of Unknowing, which is an anonymous book by like a Christian mystic, which was written, I don't know, so like, whatever, just say the 1500s or something. He's a certified old head. But he's talking to the reader directly. Like he's the first part is him speaking to you specifically, and it's like I don't know who's gonna read this at what point in time, but my goal is that I can impart just to invoke in you the feelings that he goes on to talk about in the book. But it's very conversational, and of course something like Plato and like the Socratic dialogues as well, very conversational. And so you can read these things that took place, millennia ago, and all of that wisdom and all the historical context and the philosophical ideas, all of that is in some way represented on the page. And that's just something. I mean, like even in my last video, the picture of Dorian Gray, that's almost like the supernatural, magical quality that art, and I think maybe specifically literature, although it's definitely not limited to literature. Like the art that was, some of the most moving art to me is those prehistoric cave mofos. But that ability to transcend space and time in some respect, and have a real impact. Who here is watching has not had their life changed by art, and we could even extend that and say a very old piece of art. And there's something like genuinely magical about when that happens. So that was something else I wanted to say about what's special about like literature. The Sound of the Fury is a good book though. Living to See, I'll be talking shit. It's a challenging read. But yeah, ChatGPT can do that. Send me a paragraph from the perspective of Socrates about, yeah, exactly. I'm actually kind of curious about this one. The paragraph, I kind of want to try that, but I won't. Eric Dodson has a cool video on this topic. He calls it hauntology. Ooh, yeah, okay. I like how it presents these people as peers in this world rather than just dead people. Yeah, I love that. Mm-hmm. And I forget, again, it was either Montaigne or Cicero, but it's like when I read, I'm able to annex these whole people's lives into my own, and there's just something deeply beautiful about that. Hauntology, as you say.
Communion and empathy. And then it gets more complicated because I'm also getting access to the mind of the author in a way that we don't have access to each other talking this way and stuff. And so there is, it's most of the friends I've got, and most of my friends don't like to read. Most of the friends I've got who don't like to read find it A, boring, and B, just kind of lonely and slow. And I just don't get it because I'm watching television for me, although it's easier, is much lonelier. Watching flat images on a flat screen, doing interesting things, and often they're very easy to look at, is very different from knowing what it's like to be inside somebody else's skin, or knowing what
I'll let him
to be able to spend 2 hours with an author who somehow can make me feel like I know what it is. I mean, it just seems like a form of magic to me.
Oh, look at that, bro! Drop the M word. Let's see. If they think reading is boring, they have never read Diary of a Wimpy Kid or Captain Underpants for that matter. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure many of us can relate to this. We have friends who just don't read, don't have any interest in it. The same thing, boring, lonely. And I also have never got this. Like, for some reason, well, okay, for one, I think many people have just been introduced to the wrong books because there are absolutely boring books out there. And I think a lot of the books that, like, people should read oftentimes can low-key be the boring ones, or they'll go for like just balls deep, never read a book in their life, but I was like, I'm gonna read Crime and Punishment or War and Peace. Well, okay, no one actually does that, but like, you know, the curating, and it's like we talked about earlier, I think I view reading very much as a muscle, and it's something to be exercised. Like, I don't know about you guys, but for one, I read every day, at least a little bit, and if I go some few days without reading, it is like, there's like a sort of sluggishness, grogginess in my mind, you know, into literarily, I guess you would say, where I need to kind of work it off. So, you know, that very much is a muscle. I think that's part of it. But I also agree, it's just people either they've just been introduced to the wrong literature. And, you know, I agree with him too. You know, he says he finds TV much more lonely. And I think he's speaking about TV in like the entertainment. You could extend that to social media sense, right? You're just seeing this blank screen and it's just entertaining nonsense that kind of keeps you engaged, but there's nothing actually substantive there. Because I would say, you know, I think really good television, and I've heard this too in other discussions with David Foster Wallace, at that time, television wasn't super, like, it hadn't reached like the artistic form. It was very kind of like you know, mass appeal, because now we have TV shows that are just absolutely brilliant. And, you know, I think David Foster Wallace for sure would not say that necessarily of, like, you know, really good movies. Like, you know, he was a huge fan of David Lynch. I'm sure he would say the same thing about there being, you know, all the good stuff about literature where there's like a message and symbols and ideas that are conveyed across time and space and blah, blah, blah. I'm sure he would say that, but about film and TV shows nowadays too. But I take his point that, you know, the more entertaining literature, or not literature, but the more entertaining content, all that stuff, like he says, that's the stuff that's a little more, you know, boring, you know, in a real sense, as well as also, you know, lonely. That's his whole shtick, right? The hyper, you know, content driven social media brain, you know, entertainment addiction, all of that is the thing that's driving us into spiritual loneliness. So let's see. Just catching up on chat. Yeah, I've bought people books out of nowhere just to try and get them to read, and it did not work. Yeah, I've done that same thing too. Like, oh, bro, if like, because like I'll be like, if I got this, would you read it? Because they've expressed interest. It's like, oh, dude, yeah, totally. Never get that fucking book back, and they never read it. Everybody wants to read, no one actually reads. Obviously not always true, but exactly same. Some days I gotta hit deadlines and I don't have time to read. The moment I pick up a book, it's just yeah. I mean, I agree. It's totally like that. Finally read Stoner, such a good read. Thanks for the rec from one of your vids. Oh, that's funny. I don't know. Oh, I think, yeah, I must have book hauled that because Stoner's on my, because I've been reading like these big books, you know, and I'm like, honestly, I kind of want to hit a few shorties, quickies, I guess you would call it. Stoner's on my list. But hold on, let me close this. My brother with zero attention span ran through the Red Rising trilogy after not reading for years. I'm behind the idea of needing the right book. First off, I remember really liking Red Rising, and I also blew through. That's one of the series I can trace back to, like, I could not wait to get home to just pick that shit up. And that's also, I think, an argument too. I mean, Red Rising you could definitely spin as having some interesting kind of like ideas. But this is why I'm not huge on when people just like shit on like the entertainment kind of literature. Like if that's all you do and you have no aspirations for more than that, then that's a different thing. But I do think, the entertainment-y books can be good gateways into like, real literature. Because if we're thinking about it as a muscle, you can't start off with those 50 pounds weight. You got to start out with the little 5-pounders. Have it be fun, Take a second to ask who the fuck messed up DFW's cut like that. Yeah, that looks like my hair sometimes, bro. My hair over the years is crazy. Never have quite figured it out. Reading is a skill that needs development for sure. It's also very intriguing to see how you evolve as a reader over time. The last couple of years, I've been really focusing on rereading things I read like 20 plus years ago and see how my impressions have changed. Not because the work has changed me, but because I have. Yeah, the progression of readership is absolutely a thing. You know, it's a sort of intellectual journey in some way, because like, you know, there's certain books that I was not ready for. Like I mentioned, 100 Years of Solitude, which after enough time passed, I put in enough work, I reread it and it was fantastic. And yeah, I agree. You know, rereads you can with great books. I mean, I think that's actually, I would even argue that's a prerequisite of a great book. It's one of those that once revisited, you'll get something new out of it. But yeah, and then, you know, sometimes you like, I remember when I graduated from English Lit, I think I've always kind of read this. It's a little like my memory of this is always fuzzy because I always kind of read, but there was a period where I was like reading significantly less, and then I came back into it, and then now I'm just, you know, now it's like a literally integral part of my life. So yeah, the development of and it has ups, it has downs, you know, we all been there. It was okay, blah 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 blah. Nice. If you like Rising, fuck with Sun Eater. Yeah, I need to get into my fantasy grind again. Sun Eater. If you fuck with Sun Eater, blah blah. Yeah, exactly. Cool code. I wouldn't be reading nowadays if not for Brandon Sanderson. And for me, I started out with like mystery novels, you know, like the Dennis Lehane and Dean Koontz and shit, like some Stephen King books, and but also just like, you know, a ton of mystery. That was my big thing, mystery. And, you know, that could be considered, you know, like genre or like entertainment-y, but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, it gets you reading. And then eventually you read one of those books, because any good genre book will also have something that's literary about it. And so once you get one of those and you've worked the muscle a little bit, it's like, okay, you start to get hooked, and it's like, okay, I like that. And then you can, you know, progress and move on to, you know, deeper texts in whatever, you know, genre it ends up being. Sando is a shit writer, but he brought so many people to the hobby. Dude is a real champion for the industry. So yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, it's like if all you're doing is just, you know, consuming Brandon Sanderson your whole life, I guess different story. Although maybe even honestly, you know, it's all up to your own. You know, what do you want to get out of it? But yeah, I think there's definitely a space for like the types of books that people normally shit on for being too entertaining-y, you know, like lowbrow, they would say. I think it's a little more nuanced than that. Because yeah, those are the gateway drugs oftentimes.
And is it also comfort?
I can't remember which American writer it was who I heard him speak, and he said that his job is to comfort the disturbed and to disturb the comfortable. And so there's something comforting. There's something comforting about being able to inhabit somebody else, but there's something also very uncomfortable about it, because usually the experiences that person is having are just the ones that I don't like or that I haven't worked out. And it seems to me that the biggest split isn't between music and literature or music and sculpture or whatever. They're forms of art that offer us escapes from ourselves and our daily lives, and I think that's fine in small doses.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there are kinds of art that offer us more sort of confrontation with our own lives. And I don't think it's surprising that there isn't as much demand or as much money in the latter, because it's more difficult and less pleasant sometimes. And it takes skill and education to get good enough at reading or listening to be able to derive pleasure from it. There's class stuff involved here that gets very tricky.
Interesting. Yeah, let's pause there because there was a lot there. Yeah, I mean, well, he was basically just saying it takes some like intellectual exercise. You know, you got to work the muscle basically. And the idea, I like the confrontational stuff. It's like almost any form of art, I think, can be separated into that, right? You know, like the entertainment versus like the, you know, easy reading and the confrontational. It says to comfort the disturbed and to disturb the comfortable. And there is something disturbing, not in like the grotesque, macabre way, but, you know, psychologically disturbing when you read a really touching piece of fiction. You know, like I mentioned this book a lot, but, you know, read a book like Beloved. And, you know, that's not just like a breezy, like, you know, page turner that's just so entertaining. And, you know, on top of that, it's deeply literary, but it has like these themes that are, again, deeply confrontational, disturbing. Like when you see and this is what we've talked about just earlier, the empathy element where it puts you into the shoes of somebody else. Imagine being put into the shoes of a slave in the time of, you know, slavery at its height in America. So, and again, that's not like a fun thing necessarily to read, but it's also, deeply important, leads to growth. And, not even, it doesn't even have to be something like, to give you like a historical perspective. This is stuff that people deal with all the time, that, there's certain things that all of us, certain aspects of life, whatever it be, like relationships or, finding purpose or just anything like that, stuff that you don't like to think about, that oftentimes a good piece of literature will just rub your nose in, and you come out stronger and better and more wholesome for it. But that's the same reason that we're so addicted to our phones, because the alternative is to confront ourselves. And I think that's what so it's like there's a couple different ways to think about it. It's like maybe people don't read because there's almost like this psychoanalytic repression or avoidance of something that it's something that we know we really ought to engage with, but that we don't want to confront. So that's another take on why we're going so brain dead in society. Just catching up on chat here. Find me a sane man and I will cure him for you, type beat, which I think is odd. Yeah. Yep. Oh, nice Twitter bot. Okay, cool.
But I think it's worthwhile. I think reading and writing are both worthwhile. That's very profound. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no. Honestly, it is. Reading and writing is worthwhile, because all of these things, while they may be difficult, these are stuff that you will. Anything in life that is worth having is going to require some level of effort. Whether it be spiritual, mental, physical, like literally anything. You can't. You get into things what you put. Or what you get out of things, what you put into them. And if you just engage in the entertainment stuff your entire life, you're not going to get a lot out of it. Whereas some like literature or any other form of art, which is more challenging, even at the level of just like basic reading lexile, but then also with the more engaging with the ideas philosophically and everything.
Did good for a while. In the middle there, that was lucid. All I did was parrot back what you said, but I took like 10 times as long.
No, that's
and
not
I did this a lot more. So.
That's my dog.
Boy, is it hot in here now.
Yeah, it's true.
Wait, what'd he say? Now the perspiration starts.
So we are right into something that I actually have. Do you want me to get you some little bit of water or something?
No, I'm fine. I'll just be sweating here in my chair. It's fine.
No,
not a problem.
Poor guy.
Typical American.
Yes, the sweaty American. I'm proud to sweat on behalf of the USA.
Sound guy, shut up. No, just like after learning more about the numinous from Jung, IDK about engaging my mind. Can you say more about that? The numinous to me is like that almost like spiritual, divine feeling you get around certain symbols and art. And, there's absolutely, I do encounter the numinous when I'm reading a really great piece of art. Circling back to the haircut, it's odd because he actually doesn't look odd with that yee ass haircut at all. And he always dresses weirdly, but he never looks odd. It's the DFW style. It's the DFW style.
So we are just in the middle of a question that I put on this paper. Which was somehow faxed or emailed to you.
And which I received.
That's good to know.
Look, that's that. We know we old like different era, and also just so prophetic. She's talking about faxing, and he said, "I received that, bro, fax." And then everything he's talking about with this social media and entertainment addiction and everything, and it's like, oh my God, you guys hadn't even got past fax yet. Goodness. I learned today that after Pynchon published Vineland, DFW said it was obvious Pynchon smoked weed and watched TV the prior 20 years. Honestly, that makes me want to read it. And if I'm not mistaken, he DFW also wrote a lot. Some of his early writing was spent just in a college dorm smoking weed. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, that's been my routine lately. I mean, I write normally throughout the day too, but there's something about just once all your responsibilities for the day are set up, you post up on the couch, you toke a doobie, and get to writing. As someone said, I'd be experiencing the numinous. But yeah, no. It's the 90s aesthetic. Yeah, that's half the stuff I've ever written minus the college dorm. yeah, just smoking. But, and honestly, that could be a whole topic in itself. I don't know if we can broach that, but You know, I mean, even in my video about Carl Sagan, like, bro smoked weed, took a shower, and then, like, wrote the core ideas for 11 essays that ended up featuring in books and commencement speeches and, like, lectures. So there's absolutely something to, and honestly, so much of my writing, I've had ideas or just, like, passages that, like, I'm just being objective. That shit came out better. I'm not saying, like, you should. I'm not necessarily advocating. I think you need a little bit of both. You need some sober work, but also, like, you know, when you've been too close to a text, like you've been a lot of, I mean, I don't know, I guess if people know this, but like you're working on something, you know, some form of art or whatever, and you're just editing it and you get too close to it. It's just like, I've been looking at this thing too much, smoke some weed and then revisit it. It's like, I'm coming with a whole new perspective and obviously the creativity stuff, but there's downsides to it as well, of course. Yeah, Dokor. It's creatively stimulating. I think that just sums it up better. From my understanding, the numinous is all the stuff outside the ego-conscious realm, and I don't want to disturb any archetypes and get possessed by them. There's some spook stuff. Yeah, the thing about Jung and why he's so low-key blackballed in psychology, because, you know, I have a whole degree in psychology, and I say that to say that, you know, you get one little chapter on Jung, and people kind of are like, you know, he had some good ideas, but he's a bit of a crank, and like a lot of his stuff, people will be basically just be like, you know, it's not scientific, it's not true, like, you know, the science of psychology, but he does have, you know, the idea of the extrovert introvert that came from Jung, the idea of the unconscious and dreams as having meaning and archetypes as, you know, there are certain themes which pop up in cultures around the world, blah blah blah. But the thing about Jung is, bro is actually super mystical, supernatural. So yes, I understand you, cool. You don't want to mess with the spirits. You don't want that smoke. You don't want that spiritual smoke. That's why so many artists are addicts to some substance or another. Yeah, I mean, for a number of reasons, but yeah, totally.
The fear of the writer that his work and his persona somehow made banal and be flattened and abused as soon as the media.
I don't recall that. Where's that?
He said line.
Yeah.
Banal?
Yeah, I don't know if that's banalized. This is,
okay.
I think that I made this word up.
How interesting. See, mine stopped here.
Really?
Yeah, there wasn't any of this stuff.
Oh my god.
No, it's fine.
The facts.
So it'll all be so we're talking about like the marketing of writing stuff.
No, but I mean, it's the fear of the writer that his work and his persona are somehow made into banal, not only by promoting. Yeah, well, it belongs to promoting.
The work and his persona are the same thing.
No.
But they're both made.
Yeah, but as when you are out there for the media, and what happens then?
That question was not well formulated. I'm gonna give him that. That question was not well formulated.
I see a paradox here. I'm going to talk about the difficulties of having to deal with the media, but I'm talking to the media.
Sure.
Right.
I mean,
See, I'll pretend I'm talking to you, but when the show's,
Sound guy, did I just hear you laugh? Pipe down.
you're going to have this face, sweaty face, on camera, talking about how difficult it is as a writer to be on camera. In which case, if I were the viewer,
His face actually looks very dry to me. It doesn't look sweaty. It looks dry.
I would go, so why is the son of a bitch on camera? So how do you suggest I handle this?
Yeah, no, it's a paradox, but at the same time, I think it's very. I mean, it's a legitimate fear to have.
Here,
So-
okay, I feel this is terrible, gang. We made it 15 minutes, but we're coming up on the hour and a half mark here, so I might wrap it up. To be continued. Honestly, I mean, that's just a good sign, right? That just means there's just a ton of stuff to talk about here. But I'm gonna wrap this up just because, you know, we've been going for a minute. This was just a fun little stream, bonus stream, as I said. Hold up, let me see if I can switch gears here. Okay, yeah. One moment, everybody. And I hope all you guys, I would love if you guys could show up tomorrow for the Circular Ruins. I think we'll have some banger ass conversations. Okay, I need to figure out my fucking... Okay. Okay, sorry, let me just check them on chat, make sure. Yeah. Lens Grace. Yeah. Okay. Cheers. Yes, of course. Okay, yes, come back, everybody. Borges is the GOAT. So yeah, tomorrow we're going to be talking about the circular ruins. Yeah, I think that's going to be super hype. I've been doing some prep. A lot of stuff packed in that little 6 pages. So thank you everybody for tuning in. We will continue that DF. This can be like a running video that we maybe one day we'll even finish it. Who knows? But yeah, thank y'all for popping on. I'm excited to. Hopefully, I'll see a lot of you guys tomorrow. We could talk about the circular ruins by Borges. Thank you guys for a fire stream. Good shit as always, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.